Being fast and loud made him famous. Finding old cars in barns made him rich, but nobody, not even Richard Rawlings, knew what Dennis Collins was really keeping behind closed doors. After the TV cameras stopped filming, Collins's real collection came out. Cars with no paperwork, test cars that should have been destroyed, and one car with VIN number 0001 that some people say was never meant to be sold to regular people. Welcome to the garage the world was never supposed to see. Most fans know Dennis Collins as the well-dressed car seller who's really good at finding rare cars before anyone else even knows they're available. As Richard Rawlings' longtime friend and business partner, he showed up regularly on Fast and Loud, helping to pay for crazy barn finds and risky car flips. But while Collins became famous through YouTube and TV, people only saw what was on the surface. Behind the viral videos, behind the bright showroom of Collins Brothers Jeep, Dennis was quietly building something way more amazing and way more secret. When the cameras aren't rolling, Dennis Collins is a different type of collector. He's not just someone who buys and sells cars to make money. He's someone who saves strange and unusual cars. Cars with weird VIN numbers, impossible stories, and unclear backgrounds. His reputation among elite collectors is that he's a man with the right friends, lots of money, and a talent for getting cars that others can't get. Even if it means flying halfway around the world because he heard a rumor about a car. But here's where things get interesting. While most collectors show off their cars proudly, Dennis doesn't do that. In fact, many of his most special cars are kept in a private garage that's not open to the public, not shown on YouTube, and until recently, never photographed. This isn't the same place where he displays expensive Wranglers or classic trucks. This is more like a safe, with controlled temperature, heavy security, and built not to get attention, but for safety and protection. People on the inside say it has VIN number 0001 cars, test builds from Detroit's best years, and at least one car that doesn't legally exist on any official papers. Some people call it a secret museum. Other people think it's Collins's way of writing his own version of car history. Whatever it really is, now that the doors are starting to open a little bit, the world is finally starting to understand we didn't know Dennis Collins at all. While most car collectors show off their best cars in fancy showrooms or post beautiful videos online, Dennis Collins has done the exact opposite. Behind the public face of Collins Brothers Jeep in Wiley, Texas, there sits a plain-looking building that most fans have never seen before. No signs outside, no social media posts about it, just a few locked doors and a private keypad to get in. Inside, there aren't just rare cars, but a carefully chosen timeline of American car history that almost nobody knew was there. Collins has never been someone who creates unnecessary excitement. So while the public watched his TV flips and auction wins, he was quietly saving cars so rare that even big museums don't have similar ones. This hidden garage isn't just a place where cars are stored, it's like a mission. Cars are kept in perfect temperature control. Their tires are protected from cracking and drying out. Batteries are kept charged with special chargers, and each car is carefully written about in private notebooks, not online computer files. There are no information signs, no tour guides, just metal, rubber, glass, and secrets everywhere. Most workers at Collins Brothers Jeep have never been allowed to go inside. According to people who know, even Richard Rawlings, Dennis's longtime friend, hasn't seen every car stored in there. And that's exactly how Collins wants it to be. When someone once asked him why he doesn't show his whole collection, his answer was reportedly really simple. He said, because some things are meant to be kept, not sold. This hidden vault, covered in secrecy, doesn't just hold perfect muscle cars and expensive imported cars, but also several experimental builds that are hard to describe or classify. The real shock came when visitors started understanding this wasn't just a private collection. It was like an archive of the car world's forgotten what-ifs, and the most amazing cars, which starts with VIN number 0001. One of the most mind-blowing things about Dennis Collins's private collection is his obsession with firsts, specifically VIN number 0001 cars. These are the cars that came off the assembly line before any other cars. The cars that set the example. the ones that car companies often keep for their executives, for racing promotion, or destroy them to avoid problems. But somehow Collins has them. He has more than one of them. Sources confirm that at least 2 confirmed number 0001 cars rest under soft covers in his private garage. This includes a first-year Mustang and a test BMW, originally built for the company's internal testing. These aren't fake copies or clever rebadges where someone changed the badges. They're the real, actual cars. In the world of serious collecting, a VIN number 001 isn't just valuable. It's like a holy treasure. One car in particular made people across the industry raise their eyebrows in surprise. A 1965 Mustang GT Fastback with a VIN number that came before Ford's first showroom release. How did Collins get this car? The story trail is unclear and murky. Some people say it was saved from a company test facility. Other people believe it was given away in a private estate sale and only changed hands once before reaching him. Either way, it's not on any public registry lists. He never sold it at auction, never filmed it, and that's the power move. Owning something so huge and important that just the fact it exists makes collector circles argue and debate about it. Experts have said that these types of cars shouldn't exist outside of company archives and storage. And yet Dennis has them, quietly preserved and saved, never shown off. He doesn't brag about it. He writes everything down and documents it. It's not about getting Instagram likes, it's about leaving a legacy. And Dennis seems to understand that sometimes the most powerful flex and show of strength is staying silent and saying nothing. As if VIN number 0001 cars weren't rare enough already, Collins's garage also holds what some people have called the graveyard of what could have been. We're talking about cars that were never released to the public. Concept cars, manufacturer test cars, and pre-production builds that never made it to regular customers. Most of these were supposed to be destroyed and crushed, but they weren't destroyed because somehow Dennis got to them first. Hidden under discreet covers are cars that have no logos, carry strange body shapes and lines, or include untested technology that was years ahead of its time. One source claims a car with Ford experimental badges was in the garage briefly. It was equipped with active suspension systems that were never used on regular customer cars. Other people mention a Dodge with design features never seen in public, possibly a scrapped concept car from the early 2000s. Where did all these cars come from? Retired engineers, quiet phone calls, private collections sold under non-disclosure agreements. That's how these unicorn cars find their way to Collins. Through trust, good reputation, and a wallet that's willing to open only for the right piece. Car makers generally don't like the public owning these types of cars. Why? Because they reveal too much information. Technology that wasn't ready for the market, designs that were abandoned, or ideas that could have changed an entire brand's identity. But Collins isn't showing them off to people, he's protecting them and keeping them safe. And to collectors, that's both exciting and scary at the same time. Because if Dennis Collins has these types of cars, what else is he keeping behind those closed doors? Among the most mysterious machines in Dennis Collins's garage are cars that don't technically exist. At least not in any government or car manufacturer records, no VIN numbers in the DMV databases, no registration history, no sales paperwork anywhere. These are what collectors call ghost vehicles, and most experts agree they were never supposed to leave their factories, let alone end up in private hands. One of these vehicles, according to insiders, is an early GM test car with no badge, no license plates, and a chassis number that doesn't match any public registry. The body looks like a mix between a Corvette C4 and a Pontiac Banshee. It's like a Frankenstein blend of American muscle and concept car style, but it's what's under the outside skin that creates more questions and speculation. Aerospace-era aluminum panels, wiring that doesn't match standard GM blueprints, and digital parts that are decades ahead of their time. Some people even think it could have been a test car for government fleet development, possibly connected to defense contractor work. Then there's the blacked-out Mustang, with bodywork unlike any known production version. It has a wider track, sleeker nose, and no branding anywhere on it. Some people believe it's a Shelby test car that never made it out of the drawing phase. Other people think it's a fake, but Collins has never confirmed it publicly. In fact, he never mentions it at all. These ghost cars create serious questions. Were they company test beds, defense contracts, special orders for very important people? Whatever the origin story is, one thing is certain and clear. They don't belong on the open market for sale. And yet Collins has them, quietly resting under covers in the dark corners of his collection, protected not just by alarms, but by silence and secrecy. To own such cars legally requires either extreme connections or extreme discretion and privacy. And Dennis Collins, it seems, has mastered both of these things. Dennis Collins isn't just a car collector. He's someone who appreciates cultural artifacts and pieces of history. And some of the most jaw-dropping finds in his private garage aren't test cars or VIN number ones, but cars with real history. No alleged ownership that people argue about. No sketchy eBay listings. Just the real deal. One standout car is a Cadillac rumored to have belonged to President John F. Kennedy. Not his famous limousine, but a private-use coupe used during his time as a senator. Original title records placed the car in a Boston holding yard registered to the Kennedy estate and family. Even more shocking, Collins never made it public knowledge. Why not? According to sources, it's out of respect and honor. Some cars shouldn't be paraded around. They should be preserved, he reportedly said. Then there's the infamous Porsche 911 that allegedly passed through Steve McQueen's hands. Unlike the flashier cars used in Le Mans, this one was a street machine, quiet, dangerous, and brutally fast. Records from a California DMV archive link it directly to Solar Productions, which was McQueen's company during the early 70s. It's parked next to a vintage Shelby GT 500 with Carroll Shelby's signature carved inside the glove box. It's personalized, not forged or faked. Oh, and Elvis, supposedly. Yes, that Elvis. An old Cadillac Eldorado with pink-trimmed seats, custom-made from the factory, sits in Collins's vault. Its ownership trail runs through Graceland and back again, connected to one of Elvis's last years on tour. For Collins, it's not about celebrity worship or being a fan. It's about story preservation and saving history. Each car is a living time capsule, sealed in chrome, paint, and legacy. These aren't just collector's pieces and items, they're chapters in American history, and they're all stored in one garage, under one roof. You probably know Dennis Collins for his obsession with Jeeps. He built Collins Brothers Jeep into one of the most successful classic Jeep restoration businesses in the entire country. But one Jeep in his private collection doesn't just stand out. It confuses even hardcore military historians and experts. It's not a CJ, it's not a Wrangler, and it's definitely not a civilian vehicle. This is a prototype test vehicle. Rumors swirl around and say that the Jeep in question is a Special Forces prototype, developed for US military evaluation during the Gulf War era. It's outfitted with military-grade suspension, modular armor points, and an experimental drivetrain that's possibly diesel-electric. It's a vehicle that on paper shouldn't exist outside of a secured military facility or base. Some people believe it's tied to the DARPA Silent Transport Initiative, which was designed for special operations mobility in desert environments and conditions. Other people say it was part of a short-lived NATO technology share program. What makes it even stranger and more unusual is that Collins has never publicly discussed it or talked about it. No YouTube spotlight, no auction listings anywhere. It's never even been spotted in the background of any known video. Only a handful of insiders have reportedly seen it with their own eyes, and those who have seen it say it looks like something out of a military science fiction film. Its value is impossible to estimate. There's simply no competition or comparison. Some people whisper it could be the most valuable Jeep in existence. Not because it's flashy or showy, but because it's unique. It was built once, stored once, and now it's resting under a military tarp in the back of Dennis Collins's private garage. Why does he have it? How did he get it in the first place? Nobody knows for sure and certain. But in a world obsessed with flipping cars for clout and fame, Dennis quietly owns the only Jeep with no known equal anywhere. With a car collection this historic and important, you'd expect fanfare and celebration. You'd expect Dennis Collins to plaster these cars across YouTube thumbnails, interviews and museum showcases. But he doesn't do any of that. In fact, some of the most significant machines in his possession have never been shown to the public. No photos, no VIN reveals, no articles written, just silence and quiet. Why would he do this? Part of it may be about security and safety. With multi-million-dollar hardware under one roof, being discreet becomes protection. According to one insider close to the Collins brothers' inner circle, Dennis doesn't keep these cars for fame. He keeps them because he knows their worth goes beyond money and beyond attention and publicity. Another reason could be timing. Some people think and speculate Collins is preparing for a future reveal. Maybe a high-end book, a private museum, or even a documentary series. Holding back on the most jaw-dropping cars builds mystery, and mystery sells and creates interest. But there's a third, more haunting theory that keeps popping up among hardcore collectors and enthusiasts. Some of these cars might be too controversial to reveal to the world. Think about it carefully. Prototype government vehicles, cars that were never supposed to be sold to anyone, possibly even cars that were listed as scrapped or destroyed decades ago. Showing them off could invite questions. Questions from manufacturers, from officials, even from law enforcement and police. That kind of heat and attention doesn't interest Dennis. His empire is built on clean paperwork, quiet deals, and relationships that span decades and years. By not showing them, Collins stays one step ahead, both legally and strategically in his approach. These aren't just collector items and toys, they're historical artifacts with layers of complexity and complications. And for now, the world only gets glimpses and small peeks, because sometimes the cars that matter most are the ones nobody dares to talk about or discuss. If you think Dennis Collins's collection ends with what's parked on the main floor, think again and reconsider. Behind the pristine warehouse and well-lit garage lies another level, literally another floor or section. According to those few people who've been invited past the showroom doors, there are hidden rooms, sealed doors, keypads, and spaces only Dennis has access to. In one of these back rooms, it's said he stores his forever projects. These are builds he's never shown publicly, never put up for sale, and possibly never intends to finish. Why would he do that? Because they're not for show, they're personal to him. One build in particular is the subject of online lore and legend. A one-of-one Mopar prototype that reportedly contains experimental driveline technology Chrysler was testing before the 2008 crash. Aluminum block, composite body, digital gauges, way ahead of its time. But it's never been seen on camera anywhere. Why not? Collins allegedly made a promise to the original designer to never exploit it or use it for profit. Then there's the forbidden car, the one even close friends say Dennis won't discuss or talk about. Some people claim it's a former law enforcement vehicle with unreleased surveillance technology. Other people believe it's a prototype sports car tied to a now-defunct carmaker that doesn't exist anymore. Whatever it actually is, only Dennis knows for sure, and he's never let it leave the room or building. Engines sitting on stands, blueprints spread on tables, car covers draped in shadows everywhere. This isn't just a garage anymore. It's a vault of dreams, of secrets, and of stories too unfinished or too sensitive to share with anyone. At least not yet, not right now. Because in this corner of Collins's empire, mystery isn't an accident or mistake. It's the whole point and purpose. In the world of high-end car collectors, you'll find egos as loud as the exhaust notes and sounds. Flashy auction buys, Instagram reels, million-dollar bids made just for clout and attention. But Dennis Collins plays a different game entirely. Quiet, surgical, and decades in the making. While other collectors flash their latest buy, Collins is locking away vehicles so rare that historians still argue whether they should even exist. With cars that include VIN number 0001 production models, outlawed prototypes, experimental builds, military secrets, and historical icons, Dennis isn't just putting together a collection, he's preserving an unrepeatable slice of automotive evolution and history. A private museum that tells a story few people have access to, one that spans from Detroit's golden era to Hollywood's glamour to government secrets and back again. What makes him dangerous isn't his checkbook or money, it's his patience and willingness to wait. Collins doesn't chase hype or trends, he waits for history to come to him, and when it does finally arrive, he locks it away. Not for the world to gawk at and stare, but for a future moment when its full value, whether historical, emotional, or cultural, can be revealed properly. Fast and Loud may have ended years ago, but Dennis Collins never stopped collecting cars. He simply closed the garage door and let the rumors grow and spread. Now, as whispers leak out and shadows turn to shapes under tarps, one thing is certain and clear. He didn't just out-collect his rivals, he outsmarted them completely.